on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deals, Kenneth and Farah Deal.
So out there somewhere, baby. I think I'm getting bit up by lots of mosquitoes. Oh, it's got one right there. Oh, I lost the lens of my binoculars. Are you out there? Oh, there you are.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to The Real Deals. We're talking about infestation, not mosquitoes yet here. Did you turn up my microphone so everybody can hear me?
That's your job, baby. Remember, you unplug it all the time? Oh, yeah, it's good. I can see it. You're on the video meter.
Good evening, everyone. You've got those backwards as usual.
What's backwards?
Oh, well, never mind. Your brain cells.
Oh, you mean that? Oh, okay.
So tonight, welcome. We're going to do part 2 tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're in chat tonight, please click on the thumbs up button. That way our video will go on the top and we'll be able to reach way more people tonight. And thank you all so much for joining us and being a little patient as we run a couple minutes just behind. So I want to say hello to everybody out there. Carolyn, Zulma, Colin, Tony B, and Tony C. Okay, we can't forget those two. Carolyn, Athena, Joseph, and I think we've got Santo in there. Did I mention Colin? Suzanne came in. Good to see you. And Kevin Navarro. And of course, a big shout out to Tony C's mom, who's home, and a belated happy birthday to his mom. Happy birthday, Tony Copianco's mom. I don't know your name. I'm sorry. So, as always, kids, as you give us a like, please subscribe. Click the little ding-dong bell so you can hear us again. It's time for our St. Michael prayer so we can begin the journey.
Okay. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Sancta Michael, Arcangele, defende nos in prelio, contra nequitiam et insidiis diaboli esto praesidium. In peridere Deus, supplices de peccamur tuque. Princeps militia celestis, satana maliosque spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum pervegantur in mundo, divina virtute in infernum detrude. Amen. In nomine Dei Patri, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti, sicut erat, et principio, et nunc, et semper, et saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Seems like it. Okay, do you see us up there? Not yet?
Not yet, almost.
Hmm.
No, I do. No, I do. Yay, we're here.
Okay. All right, anyway. I guess it's a strange season.
All right, everybody hit refresh.
Yeah. Okay, how far did we get last time? That's a big question.
That's just it. You're supposed to listen to it.
Oh, I am? Let's see. Did we get to?
I think we got to the knocks on the front door. Nobody's there. Good night's sleep. I think we'd gotten about halfway through.
I don't remember getting the cold spots. Yeah.
No, we hadn't got to the scratching inside the wall, and this sounded like rodents nesting. Yeah. Remember, we had gotten through a little bit of anxiety and fear. We'd gotten through that one.
Yeah. Okay. Scratching inside wall. We had a case that actually did the opposite. Sometimes when you get in a regression or it's backing off after something has been done successfully, at least somewhat successfully, such as the case with the guy with the Filipino curse. After it was off of him, it went back into the infestation stage now that it removed itself from making him sick in the oppression stage, and he heard the scratchings in the walls and everything like that. So, I mean, that's an example that, it's like they do have these up and down stages. That's like the pre-infestation, like having mice or whatever. Oh, yes. People always ask us, okay, why are they mimicking mice and rodents and stuff inside the walls and you can't see them? Were they obsessed with these things or something? Oh, it is.
It makes you wonder.
It is like an infestation. That would be the nesting and stuff, even squirrels or whatever. But footsteps in the attic is kind of another thing where it sounds like footsteps in the attic. It sounds like boxes being moved around in the basement or in the attic as well, sliding around. That distinct sound, like clunk, sliding around like someone's looking through the stuff up there?
Yep.
That one often goes at the same time that scratching inside the walls occurs. But if somebody could see beyond the veil, you'll see if the scratching inside of the walls is going on. You'll see a large horde of the smaller, minor type demons that do that sort of thing, rather than the ones who might be making the sliding boxes and the footsteps.
Yep.
Just maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3. But it is correlating to the numbers. And the smaller ones work with large numbers, and the larger ones are just large. That kind of thing. Higher in the rank, no doubt.
Totally.
So, anything to add with that? That kind of takes care of 10, 11, and 12, because they're kind of the same stage, sort of, I guess. I don't know. It's one of the stages of the effects.
Well, we're talking about infestation, and this topic of, the something in the wall, you're hearing things. The problem with this one is why it can't be held alone as, oh yeah, you're hearing things in the walls, it's definitely demonic infestation and time to ring all the bells and whistles. You can't rule out quite a few things, such as the time of year. Right now in the spring, things are waking up and leaving your attic. In the summer, things may be climbing up there to get out of the heat, and they might be nesting. Definitely in the winter. So you've got to look at the time of the year. You've got to look at the area. You've got to look at a lot of things before you automatically assume something's making noise in your attic, and it's definitely something that you can't find. Because I'll tell you what, those raccoons are fast and they'll get out of there quick, and you won't find them. Or squirrels, chipmunks, they are notorious. What Tony's here, what Ken's talking about, scratching and rustling the walls. Oh, that was horrible. Yes, and mice will get rid of them. Or the exterminator will get rid of the mice. What you want to do is, most rodents, most of these critters are nocturnal. So they're not going to be active during the day. What we're talking about is noises that happen any time at all. You might be up having your coffee and hear weird stuff, and then it'll go away. Then maybe you come home and you're fixing dinner, and all of a sudden it's a break between the commercials, that weird time of the hour that you hear something just scratching long or scratching soft inside your wall. Probably not a rodent. Rodents are always like driving you mad when you're trying to sleep. So that's all I gotta say.
Okay. Yeah, try well, I don't know how much money you're going to spend on it, but if you can narrow down the natural, that would help. But most of these are things you're going to experience at the same time, some more advanced ones later on. But I mean, use your common sense. I mean, people living by themselves, call somebody else, period. Anybody. There's such a huge problem with people living by themselves, and they get these ideas in their head, and there's no one there to tell them, I didn't hear anything, or something, to be a sound mind. So it's not a very healthy thing to live alone and be unemployed, on disability, and all those things. I would really go out of your way to spend a lot less time in the house, so you don't start forming, hey, I watched that show and they're talking about all these things, I think all that stuff happening. And we go over there and spend gas money. Sorry about that, folks. That's money that could otherwise go for people in real need. So, well, all right, that was foul smells, and now we're talking about all the senses are starting to get kicked in at some point, including the noises, and now we got foul smells. Something that's some sight sense for the sore sense for the sore nose.
Yes.
What would you call that? Smell for the sore nose, sight for the sore eyes? Not really.
Oh my.
No, it's horrible. It's rotting flesh. It's burning flesh. It's of course excrement. It's cow patties, not so much, but worse, like dog doo.
Well, you just talked about, you didn't really cover footsteps in the attic, but this one house we lived in, we're talking about footsteps anywhere. These footsteps could be very audible, and it sounds like a boot. It sounds like a sandal. It sounds like a high heel. You didn't really cover that, Kenny.
Yeah, not enough.
No,
I had personally experienced that one.
Oh, you haven't? Oh my gosh, I have.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is an infestation here, as opposed to because sometimes you'll hear something like this in a regular haunting, and it's very unnerving, because unless you're used to it, or unless you know who's in the house, and you can't blow it off because you just know it's just part of the house. It can be very unsettling to hear something, or the weight of someone stepping on stairs that either are there and it's the same stair. You know how old houses are, and you'll step on it, it's like that, because the weight is being placed on the wood and it groans.
Oh yeah, that's very distinct.
It is. Well, what's worse is if there's nobody in the house and the stairs are no longer there. I had this house that, because of the design of the home and because of doing the abstract and finding out what the home was like, it was like a phantom noise. It was in the air. It wasn't in the attic, and it wasn't on the ground. It was a phantom noise that was in the air, and then you find out and you look, and there was actually a staircase there at one time. Very creepy stuff. But this was not a demonic infestation whatsoever. This was simply something that could be prayed away. It was a ghost hunting, and it just was kind of, it's unsettling because it didn't happen at night. And that's a lot of what we've got here on this list. Is most of the stuff that is the beginning of infestation is going to be occurring late at night. It's going to scare you. It's going to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, whereas this stuff, you didn't even have to worry about it. And because it was one of those things. It just happened. Tony's like, the demons like to flush the toilet repeatedly too. Just like my 2-year-olds.
We could have an endless list.
Oh my
Trying
gosh,
to narrow
isn't
down
that so
a little
true?
bit.
Okay, so.
But what you're saying about
to add
that?
about the footsteps, because footsteps can occur anywhere in the house.
Yeah,
Yes,
the attic is kind of
nocturnal.
because it's discreet, and they do that early on a lot of times. They put it in the basement when you're upstairs. They put it in the attic when you're in the middle floor. And they put it behind the walls where you can't be up close and personal. It's like they're keeping their distance initially.
Yeah.
But no, if it's a ghost haunt, it doesn't escalate and come in like out of the blue. That's not what ghost haunts do. I mean,
True.
ghost haunts that are demonic aid, like the condemned spirit or a relative just dies, do we expect that suddenly? Unless they lived in that house, don't expect grandma to come visit suddenly and start clomping around in the attic. But there's, you would have to have something that signified that change, or there will be preceding things if you look in our list that says that, hey, we're on the way to a demonic infestation, sleep paralysis, shadows, 3 knocks on the front door, and you hear foot stomps in the attic. Even if it's a human spirit, it's working with a demon in that case. But that's good. So that one of the common ghost things is they do that, what they call a residual. But residual came up from the atheists, the people who don't believe that there is a spirit behind it or an intelligence even. And I said there's always an intelligence behind it. You're experiencing it for something, for some reason. It's not just simply recorded because you have limestone brick or something stupid like that. I'm an electronics technician, so don't try to play this. You can get fully animated, synchronized sound and holograms and stuff like from some sort of residual haunting. Okay, atheist, you got to come up with a better one than that. All righty, what was the last point on that? Just make sure, because if you actually experienced that sort of thing, you lived in a lot of haunted houses too. A lot of and because of the constant movement, because of being in the military, and they were often used by a lot of people, and there's some older.
The last one was the house that I was talking about. Was the house that called to me, and I had to have. That's why you should never let a woman choose the house.
Ooh. Oh, by the way, Deb's on assignment tonight, Deb Johnson, so in case you're...
Yeah, we miss our Deb, but she can't be here. And hi to Denise and Ron in chat. And yes, we could not resist using your little kitty cat watching our show. So makes a great little snap out. I just loved it. So, yeah, and Cecilia made it in, and Jerome. So thank you so much for joining us. Please I've only got 11, and I've got 31 of you that I can see. All you others out there hanging out in the background, kind of give it a like. And if you have to wait, until the show's over and give us a thumbs up, that'd be great, because it helps the video get out there. Hit the subscribe button if you can too, please. And don't forget, as we go, Zulma Imodium D for the ghosts. Okay, if you have questions, please pop them in. I got my little pen right here, and I will write them down as fast as I can, okay? So, onward and upward. We talked about the footsteps.
I actually
like
skipped over that
time,
one. That was stupid. I went over to foul smells. We skipped cold spots.
Yes.
So we just had those 3 in a row: scratching, footsteps in the attic, sounds of boxes moving around. When they all can be phantom sounds, and for whatever reason the sound is being made, and there's usually somewhat of a reason. That gives you a clue, but we're not going to go to the Scooby-Doo part of the show of it. Because it's not going to be relevant. You just need to figure out if it's good or evil most of the time so that you can run it out, or you can just basically send it on its way through an indirect intercession of a purgatory prayer or something. So it's either or. And the second one, the one of the big block of questions starting the show is anyway, it's 13 cold spots in the house. We talked about that in our old fellowship of the shows.
Did we talk about boxes being moved?
Okay, when I did that 3 together, I mean these phantom sounds. One's in the attic, footsteps, boxes being moved, or in the basement.
Okay.
Okay, did you have something to share about that? Of course. You know that one?
Okay, no, I guess I don't. We'll just skip it. Let's go. Sounds of cold spots in the house. I lost my train of thought. Because Steve said something about leaving Imodium AD out for the ghost, and somebody else is like saying, oh my gosh, so the ghost won't flush, and then my mind is going, okay, leave banana pie out for the ghosts, okay?
How about kale
Stick their
pectate? Maybe it'll help them with their foul smells on the next one.
Oh my gosh, you guys. All right.
Cold spots in the house. So since you're not thinking that.
Yes. Oh, yeah, exactly. Temperature fluctuations, especially that are consistent in houses. And you'll notice this with hauntings more than the demonic infestation. And the reason I have found is this. And Ken, of course, has a different set of experiences and a different set of cases. And then we have those that we're together. The temperature fluctuations in demonic infestations are going to be completely different from the ghost hauntings per se, because the demons don't want to leave. They want you to think that they're your friends and you're their bestie, and they just need a mama, or they just need a little understanding. The demons want to get into an abusive relationship with you by inviting you in and grooming you to believe that you need them. Whereas, ghosts are basically kind of like Peter Pan's shadow. Does anybody remember the original Peter Pan? And Peter Pan was like trying to stitch his shadow to him because he couldn't control the shadow. The shadow just took off. Well, that's a ghost. It's just harmless and it's out there. And you can't chase it. You can't make it do anything. You can't stitch it to yourself either. Sorry to say. But my point is, we're talking about a different sort of electromagnetic field, a different energy that is not, it's not evil and it's not going to scare you. And the temperature fluctuations are usually specific to, for whatever reason, that the ghost or the purgatory spirit is there. And the temperature fluctuation is usually a few degrees cooler. It is not ice cold.
For ghosts, huh?
Yeah, it's not. It's just a few degrees cooler. You're not going to, like the Hollywood movies say, and you see these just huge waves of white. You're not going to be able to see your breath. But demons, on the other hand, oh boy, we can talk about that later. Tony has a good point, Ken. I want to bring this up real quick because this is something that kind of relates to us talking about temperature fluctuations. He says, I don't know how common this is, but the house had a strange unknown animals on the property, and he's read that demons often appear as strange animals, but his father didn't have the information. And by unknown, he means unidentified species. So they kind of look like a wolf, but they kind of look like a warthog, or maybe they kind of look like a warthog, with those tusks, but the back of them kind of looks like a fox.
I know, I saw something when I was 18. I was in Martinsville, Missouri. That's where I saw what's called the Horde of Demons celebrating, long story. And so that hit some issues, and maybe the property or something, because the house was just built brand new. But anyway, it looked like I couldn't, what the hell is that? It's not a dog. Collie's got a big beak. It's not, we have anteaters in Missouri. And so it looked like it looked like that thing on Stephen King's movie where it actually showed the guy getting hit by a car, and he saw this thing looking at him, but it didn't have big eyes. It had smaller eyes. but it had that same kind of body and that snout like that. It didn't have a dog thing or anything, and I still don't know what that was. Aardvark. But I was thinking about that, but later as we come to learn that that's kind of a heavier layer of demonic activity and manifest animals, usually in your house when it's infested on the property. If it's used for the dark arts, those are spirits that are representing something to do with the faith, black magic faith, whatever, Native American or something, like Bigfoot. They only show up around these, areas that were inhabited by natives who did the practice to conjure up something like Bigfoot or to draw it or lure that spirit in. It's not a Bigfoot physical being.
No, not at all.
Now you see it, now you don't. It's a manifestation.
Yes.
Like for the New Age people who are kind of like trying to be more science fiction, they'll get the UFO aliens. But
and Tony just confirmed that. He said that that's exactly it. His father said he could not, he thought they looked like something like that, and he said it didn't look natural. He couldn't describe them. He said it was so unsettling. I'd say, Tony, the place is probably cursed, and your dad was probably right to look away and get the heck off there.
Yeah, and of course demons mimic when they do appear as an animal or something. They mix different features because they have lost their ability to be able to be actually creative.
Yes.
Now, I know, art school and stuff in kindergarten all the way up to college. They'll tell you, you're really a creative artist. All you do is...
isn't that the truth?
But you're cutting out magazine pictures. Somebody already created a picture, and you're just going, like the monkey with a paintbrush that sells as modern art at the auctions. There is a monkey doing that right now, by the way, and he's making money. But that's the kind of thing right there. They lack that creativity. They lost it when they fell. So they mimic things, and they steal it, they borrow it, they plagiarize it. And it could be mixing up. Look at the Balefet, whatever the heck his name is, Goat Boy.
Baphomet.
He's got the head of a ghost.
I shouldn't even say that name because it's like...
The middle section of a female and then legs of a goat, and it's still a mishmash. Mermaid even. Mermaids, you might have some old folklore that mermaids actually help the sailors keep from crashing the rocks, but then again, they pull you under and they actually lure you to crashing in the rocks. So which one's true? And which one came from the pagans? Because you appease demons and stuff. They're going to tell you how to safely get away from the rocks for the most part, since you're serving them. So I don't know. It's hard to say without being there and getting more details. We can investigate some of these things if it's an open case, but I don't think we're going to have time to even research anything anymore like I did in the old days. To come up with answers. Like the big question is like, why does sage seem to work? Or does anybody ever use an oscilloscope so they can read what kind of waveforms are in the house rather than look at a meter rocking up and down and act like, oh, we got ghosts, my tri-field meter is going crazy. That kind of thing with cold spots. It's the same thing. Oh, there's a little draft over here. Well, that don't mean anything. Is it moving? Is it now over there on the other side of the house? Is it 10 degrees colder? Is there a refrigerator, nearby? There's a lot of reasons for that. But I think I'll answer that real quick because some of these are going to be quicker. You're talking about ghosts, right, Farah? The idea is that purgatory goes, first off, even though people talk about hell, the hell fire that a purge may be is actually not going to be like, oh, it's burning my flesh and all that stuff in the same way as fire. It can be a stinging like a fire, a purge. But most people who had near-death experiences describe a frigid cold, and they don't really describe that I'm on fire. Some of them did, but a large percentage of them said the environment was freezing cold. You know what happens when you get fingered and you start getting frostbite before they go numb?
Yep.
It stings. Maybe not as bad as a fire. I haven't had either one like that, third-degree burns. But when it's a demonic spirit, they can be so cold, just as they are extremely black, as we talked about earlier, that the temperature signifies its power and strength, its size, too. There's been some so big it encompassed the whole room like a black veil got dropped over it. And some have been so freezing cold that it feels like someone left the window open. You go to close it, and it's like, oh. And you see a shadow creeping on the wall or something. The bigger ones, the bigger the batter, the higher rank ones are going to have an extreme cold. more extreme darkness, and at some point, if you give it more manifestation power by keep it doing something
like
stupid,
paying attention to it and talking to it and interacting with it, like we tell people not to.
Yeah, then they're gonna get more of an example of what kind of real power they got.
Yep.
So, what more to say about the cold spots? It's like putting ice cubes in a cup of water. The cup of water starts to get cold, but the entities themselves are cold. That's just kind of.
Oh, and that's another thing too. I want to differentiate people when they're talking about demonic infestation, because since I have a little bit of experience with the ghosts down the hall.
She's so humble.
But the difference between the big difference, just in case somebody asks you or whatever, you can always refer them to fried brain Farah here. When you have, my brain is fried about now after the whole long week we've had. I'm so ready for us.
Yeah.
We're talking about cold spots. Now, a lot of ghost hunting teams and everything are like, I've got to jump in, I've got to monitor it, I've got to see the temperature, I've got to see what other kind of electromagnetic energy is here. You don't want to do that, all right? Because on the off chance that it is not a ghost, and the temperature fluctuation all of a sudden goes from cold to warm, or goes from cold to colder, you've got a demonic presence that you've just interacted with and just kind of gave permission to hang out with you even when you leave, because you have specifically put yourself in a position and called attention to yourself by putting a great big target on you, saying, come on, let's play. Whereas a ghost is not going, a ghost appearance is not going to have that sort of fluctuation. 1 minute it'll be there, the next not. There will not be any kind of fluctuation of the temperature. And chances are it will be there for a while. So they are radically different.
Yeah, moving, not fluctuating.
Not similar whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's important too, because we can do a show another time based on some of the things that you're talking about. Call it, how do you tell the difference between a ghost and a demon? That's too hard for me to do on one little show by myself.
Yes.
And I would have to make notes so I can hammer them out. And then cut. And then, when you get the cut, you get that kind of switch over, like suddenly your arm's over here and your head's turned. And, I would have way too many of those things. Some of these things we can just rattle off the top of our head.
Exactly. And, somebody else was mentioning in chat, too. This is a really good point about just like, I don't know if you've got anything about moisture in there. I didn't see anything either. But with the cold spots, a lot of people will say, well, you live in Ireland and it's always moldy there, or you live in Missouri, it's always moldy there. There are certain places you will go, and due to the structure, due to the nature of the building you walk into, there should be no dampness, but something is damp, and it's beyond dank, fetid earth. It feels and it smells awful. There's also a propensity for a lot of insects that have no reason, no known reason to be there.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that last week.
Yes.
But the mold is a different thing, and I know what you mean.
It really, really is.
It's like another life form being attracted. A negative one too, because it can make you sick, and black mold can actually do a lot more than that even. Yeah, I hear that moisture. But, that would be on one particular side of the house. How we get the little mold sometimes once you get in the corner. And there's also, it happens to be a gutter drain right there. And besides that being a corner or something, it's more vulnerable for whatever reason. Is there water there? Is it getting wet, damp under the house, that spot? Yeah, but the cold is very notably different. So if you get 5-degree temperature, just like that stupid global warming thing. If you get I've saved global warming, $100 trillion went, and we lowered the Earth's temperature for, what? What's that? It's actually seasonably cold this time of year? So our 1 degree for $1 trillion didn't save the Earth? Oh, well, I guess we're all dying 100 years later. Oh, the global warming is going to happen in 12 years. We're all going to die. People, grow a brain. It's not scientific. Bill Nye is not a science guy, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So what's for the comedy sketch? All right. We started off in the jungle. And we're still in the jungle, by the way. Welcome to the jungle.
Totally.
Yeah, the cold spot's an interesting thing, though. But
Yeah, and it's pretty strange experience too. It's very, very strange.
I put the one in there, and I was trying to put them in progression, but it didn't work very well because, you think of something and it's forget it. This is not a presentation. We're not getting paid. I'm not putting it for trying to convince a bunch of stuffed shirts some of this exists, especially skeptics. They used to be worse than PhDs. Of course, it should be because they're the ones usually undereducated. And foul smells, phantom noises, that kind of goes.
I like how you wave
thing.
your face. Foul smells. I put perfume on, baby. You'd be nice.
Not me. Phantom noises is in the same category as 10, 11, and 12. But
so we're doing 3 at once now?
No, we did the other 3 already.
Oh,
Scratching, footsteps, sound of boxes moving around. Those can be phantom noises. I mean, in some cases, even one that we had,
the foul
they went in the basement
that move around the house.
No, I just said I'm talking about the one that's after that. The foul smells is anyway, but the phantom noises. And when I write these things, I know some may relate it, but I don't take the time to. You know what I mean? I mean, we're going to do our next talk, which I'm going to talk to our exorcist about. We'll actually organize a really good slideshow presentation and so forth. But these things, we're just trying to get by every week, all right? So we talk about the things we know. The phantom noises, those are phantom noises. There's different kind of things about it, but so we might skip that when we get there. Foul smells. That don't mean B.O. As I was saying before, I was just saying that body burning and secretion. Skunk smells? No. You ever burn a rubber band that smells exactly like a skunk? Oh, I did that when I was a kid. And those kind of smells related. They might tell you something. How about rotting flesh? They might actually tell you something about the type of spirit there or the reason why it's there. So that's an interesting thing in itself that we won't get into tonight because we're actually going over stages. Not so much the detail of every stage, because each one of these could be a 15-minute segment of a sub-show, like the Art of the Deals or the Fellowship of the Sword was like. That's why it's taken so long to get through them. What say you, Farah Rose? Foul
Nothing.
Smells.
I deal with foul smells every day.
Oh,
What kind of
come
foul
on.
smells are we dealing with?
Stick to the subject, infestation.
Okay, all right, now. There's lots of things that smell, as we know in life, people. We can't list them all tonight, okay, in an hour. When we're talking about infestation, these are smells beyond. If you have never come upon a cat or an animal that is rotting, it's worse than that. Okay, I'm sorry, Blake, please don't be offended. That's my oldest son. If you had a child that played a sport like hockey and had 12 of these young boys or something in the same room, and you put dead things on top of that and just the grossest thing you can possibly imagine, possibly blood, urine, feces.
What was it, an armadillo rolled in?
It's just the most disgusting smell you can possibly imagine. It's beyond the death smell. Colin was saying something like that he had a death smell and they found something dead. This is really what we're talking about for infestation wise. This is something that grips your throat, turns your stomach, and you weren't sure you smelled it. Like occasionally, a lot of times when we go to houses and we talk with people and I walk around the house, I'll get whiffs of pipe smoke. Just vague pipe smoke, or I'll get the scent of somebody's perfume. And that I can tell is somebody that needs to be prayed for, that somebody needs to take the time to pray for these people that may, for whatever reason, be held by our own desires, God knows why. This is something that it really makes you sick. And these kind of smells are very, very rare because this is almost beyond infestation. This is a rooted evil that is invested in someone or something or that property. When you have something that you're smelling like that, infestation, this isn't the beginning of infestation. When you have that kind of smell on a property, this is a step beyond infestation. It's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody was murdered on the property, I mean, there's such small scenario chances of having somebody's ghost scenario. Someone's buried in your wall, and you'll have a demon tell you to go and do the scavenger hunt and ruin your property, so you can't sell it, you can't afford to fix it. You might even break the couple up. It's like a stir of echoes. You think Kevin Bacon's relationship was very well when he started chopping up the floor? I mean, eventually, he found a body, but I think that's the only case I've ever known. I even saw that at one of those episodes of Haunting or whatever. The spirit had them, of course, through its psychic medium. I'd sue her first. And they were chopping out walls from this old tavern, I think it was.
Yes.
So they had the plaster walls and everything. That got expensive.
Well, Francois has a question. I think it ought to be addressed because this is relating to smells. We have a comment in chat that said that the saints spoke that hell had a stench so foul that it would kill us if we actually smelled it in this life, as we are physically, and that the stench is a foretaste of the sufferings of hell. It's so disgusting. And Francois says, well, what's the point to all this? Is it just their presence or is it on purpose? Okay, and I'm going to tell you this, Francois. As I cannot begin to understand these immortal beings, all I can do is make notes and try and help people and help exorcists and help my husband. All I can do is make notes, and I can just give you my experience and share this with you. When you smell this foul smell, that's a warning. It's more than danger, Will Robinson. This is a dog that pees on a tree. This is a cat that leaves scat right where it knows its territory. This is a bird taking its beak and rubbing it back and forth on a twig. This entity, this evil, has marked itself there. For whatever reason God's allowed it, it has marked its territory. You do not smell these kind of nasty foul smells just because, a demon decided to go through here and didn't want to stay. No, this is a marking of a territory.
That's a good one, because it's like I always said that about oppressions. You get the 3 scratches, you've been marked for oppression, even if it doesn't go anywhere as fast as the demon would like. And they might even be doing that because you'll have a raised level of fear that you actually been physically attacked. So that's a smell, and I always say they go after the senses. And it's odd that someone would go all the way through oppression to step in possession, and they never heard a demon spoke in their head. And other people will get it all day and all night. That drives you insane. You think that vision popping in because your eyes are online a little differently than your ears. They can mix in there. Our whole life is a mix of visions and things that you hear. Some reason the hearing thing will drive you crazy because you can hear that voice all night and all day in your head, and it will drive you insane. But a person who's like seeing these visions, I mean, that's kind of like what some of the mystics had. Like, you'll just have it break in when you don't expect it. Remember Christopher Walken? It's like, and you'll have that vision, make it more dramatic. Remember that? Dead Zone?
Yes.
Yeah, the Dead Zone, that Stephen King movie with Christopher Walken.
Well, and Barb said, I'm wondering, how is it that these people, and this is something we talked about today because we are previewing the movie, a couple of movies on abortion, and we saw the one today about the doctor that was labeled the worst serial killer in history. And Barb's question relates to this because you and I were talking about this, Ken. Her question is, I wonder how people in the occult, like the Illuminati, can deal with smells like that. And I'm going to tell you how. They don't smell it. Have you ever gone up to a homeless person that has just crawled out of the woods, or found somebody that's really, really homeless and they just need some money or they just need some food, and you stand next to them and you hand them your leftovers from your $10 a plate food, and you just give them their leftovers and a couple dollars, and to stand next to them, what are you smelling? All this BO and dirt and skin and urine. Oh my gosh, go to Peru and smell the urine on the dress. I'm sorry, Jesus. But these are really smells that they cannot smell. And that's another thing too, is working with homeless people and volunteering in food lines. They don't want a shower because it's all they have left, their smell. So these people that are in the occult, these people in the Illuminati, these people that are worship Satan, these people that deal with these entities and think that they're being controlled, the smells. Let me put it this way. if you wear, this is why I have like at least 10 different perfumes, you know, because I buy secondhand and I find all these perfumes.
And you like
when you wear a perfume for any length of time, whether it's 3 days or it's a week, your nose can't smell it. Well, guess what? You're a Satanist and occultist. Well, once they start smelling this stuff, they don't even notice. Homeless people, they don't know that, you know, their fluids and everything is collected, that other people can't stand to be around them, so they don't know it. And their sin really truly blinds them to where they cannot see it, they cannot smell it, they don't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. Remember, Ken, we were talking about that in the movie today. How can he sit there and play the piano and pretend like everything's all right? Because he cannot see the evil that he's sitting among. And that's the truth. They cannot smell it, Barb. They cannot see it.
The senses, all of them too. The ears, you know, he doesn't
it's
hear
just
evil,
like, you know, there's hairspray in their hair. It's another day.
Yeah. That was a shocking movie because it was a true story. So I would recommend it on that. There's another one out right now on that topic, but boy, it was like it's just gotten bad. We'll do another show on that because I have to, because we gotta keep that information flowing out there. But no, that was a great point, because your eyes, you know, with Paul, you know, he had the scales over his eyes. You couldn't even see that Christians were true faith. They were under God, you know, and Jesus was the Son of God, etc. And he had to have that major thing happen. And he had scales literally show up in his eyes that were peeled back. And how about the ears too? That we don't hear the truth.
No.
You know, some people get so blinded and their ears get clogged with mud. And now you got this too. They can't smell the foul stench that they're putting off. Yeah, it just makes sense. They're blind. All their senses are cut off, right?
Well, exactly. And, you know, knowing people that have been party to this stuff, I have to tell you, Tony, they do smell, okay? You think that Satanists don't typically smell this because they're being seduced by darkness and they're being spared the oppressive signs? They haven't been spared anything. They've wallowed in it and enjoyed it. It's a badge of courage for them. They wear it. They wear their pain. They wear, you know, their stripes of initiation. They wear the torture that they wreak upon other people. It's a level of, they begin to believe that they are king of the hill, and they're not spared. They're not spared whatsoever, because you and I may look at the situation and see, oh gosh, that guy is missing this and this and that, when all he can see is he can see what the world sees. I've got this and I've got that. He's counting what he's got. And a Christian that loves God and fears God sees what he lacks. That's exactly the picture. It's like putting on rose-colored glasses. They don't smell it. They don't see it. They love it. You and I would be sick. Yes, that's the name of the movie, Barb. It's Gosnell. Yeah.
We only found one copy, and I had to wait a long time to get it at the rental place.
Athena, the name of the movie is Gosnell. It was very famous, based on a famous case in 2010 here in Philadelphia. And I would recommend, it is a family movie. There is nothing that is very vulgar or treated very badly. They were very, very careful to make sure that parents could watch this with children and it could be discussed. Whereas there's a lot of horrific details about this case, but Ken and I were drawing the similarities because that's what we do when we're exposed to something that's that evil. And truly what this man did was very, very evil, and he could not see it. He was so in tune with his sin and his blindness that he embraced it. I mean, you know, Tony, we were talking about smells. This man lived among cat feces and turtle tanks that were unclean. And I'm sorry, if you've ever been around turtles, they stink and they smell and they're nasty. An unclean turtle tank is just disgusting. Yeah. So that's it on smells. I'm sorry, we gotta get going.
I know.
We gotta get going off the smells. We're never gonna make it out. Okay, so the phantom noises and the poltergeist sounds. Oh, well, gosh, that's like the steps I was talking about.
There's so many variables on this stuff. Like I was saying earlier, but they can actually be used where they're animated, and that's I talk about in this one video, that they can actually move around you, intimidate you, and then suddenly they're in your ear, you know, and they do that stuff to try to wake you up when you're falling asleep. They do this game. You know, in the Moonies, you remember one of the older cults, you know the Love Israel cult really well from being exposed to it and trying to help people to get out of it. They did this thing where they kept you awake. You'd be dozing off, and then one of the people would come over there in that cult, and they would bang on the desk or table that you're sitting on, and then you'd wake up like this. So they'd scare you awake. It was important. They kept you awake day and night. And that's what these demons do. They do the same thing these cult people do. And that's where the cult people learned it from, no doubt. Following the doctrine of demons or whatever. The strategies, not the doctrine. But
it's an indoctrination. It's a brainwashing indoctrination so that they can force you to do what they want you to do. It's totally different than satanic mind programming, where they are setting something in your mind with a word or a phrase to program you to change and alter your behavior. There's different levels.
But that one really goes, I can do a whole show on that one because there is a lot of ways, because it's for different things. And I think we will. We'll put that on another one. We'll go over dreams now. Dreams more diabolical, as more than the original, more vivid.
Oh, definitely. When we're talking about early infestation, I agree. And that subject came up too last time. Remember, Ken, someone was saying, well, you know, what about our dreams? Most of the time our dreams don't mean anything. But however, if you're dreaming of, fornicating with your cousin, or if you're dreaming about, you know, eating a whole pie and then choking on it, if you're dreaming about, this is the bottom line here, whatever you desire can and will be used against you by the demonic. Whatever you covet, whether if it's your dog, your husband, your lover, your job, if you love it so much that you think you couldn't live without it, the devil will use it against you. And I'm not talking about, you know, I love my husband, I love my dog. I'm talking about something that is a desire that is out of the proper order in your life. So in other words, if you're like, just say, you know, you're an average mom with a house and, you know, you work out of the house, that sort of thing, but you really, really, really want your husband to buy you that Porsche and you're dying to go on that vacation. And guess what? You have a dream about being naked on a beach with a whale, and all of a sudden somebody spears you instead of the whale. It's probably demonic.
Sounds like a dream you had. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry, that was bad, but
no, it wasn't.
Bad example.
Kidding.
The problem is that, dreams are very, they're kind of like taking the garbage out. Most of the time they mean nothing. But an early infestation, you better watch it, kids. If
you know what's funny about it? People ask that question, but I said if you have to ask, then it's not demonic. Because they usually know it, and they may be asking to get either basic validation, that they think it's demonic already. But if they're doubting it and they want to run it by you, you'll be pretty sure when you had that happen that dream's going to be different than any other. It'll be totally off. I remember one time, a long time ago when I was younger, that I was just dreaming about some kind of, silly party or something, in some old building, different people, I didn't know who they were. And, like in the Phantom of the Opera, when he comes in there and you hear that, ding, he's walking down the steps. He's walking down the steps and he's wearing this mask and stuff. And the party kind of stops and gets quiet. Well, that kind of a thing happened in there too, but instead everybody kind of disappeared. When I looked around, they're all gone, and the place was growing darker. And a conical whirlwind, as some have called it, the tornado manifested at a lot of satanic rituals, except it was larger, showed up, and it had the sound and everything, the real thing. And I woke up, something was in my room, and I had to run it off. A shadow. It wasn't a conical whirlwind, luckily, and it was 3 a.m. So, 3 things right there, and that's pretty distinct, isn't it? When you have that dream and you wake up at 3 a.m. too, yeah.
Oh, yes.
In addition to seeing something. So, that's why I tell people, get up and throw the holy water around, even if you don't see anything. Don't look around with a flashlight.
We've got 2 questions I want to hurry up and cut into before we finish up, because in the last one I definitely have to address, since this happened to me recently. So we're going to go with Tony B, and then Tony C, I'm going to get your question. Tony B says, can people be used? Like when somebody becomes obsessed, can they be used demonically? Can you give a brief example of step in, like when somebody gets very drunk, when they take too much PCP? Can somebody be used? That's what he's asking.
When I get drunk, it's just kind of the same thing?
No. Can people be used by the demonic, like when somebody becomes obsessed with someone? Like let's just say a guy is absolutely obsessed with a girl, and it's like he's stalking her, can't get his mind. So can somebody be used demonically? That's what he's trying to figure out.
When we go on that line that we always hear this old one from TV movies and whatever, and they say there's only 3 stages of demonic: infestation, oppression, and possession. Well, when it's zeroed in on a person, then we're talking about that one we've been mentioning, and Father Lampert brings in the keyword vexation, and I trust it when it comes from people who've done a lot like him. We have our own too, Pharaohisms and things, these other things we put out there that make it easy to classify it. I had the one called Scout in Rome, which I think is kind of like, it's not an infestation, it's not exactly a visitation either. Go over that some other time. But when you get, oh man, how did that happen? I closed my window to get out of the chat, and it's like I got distracted.
That's okay. We can go to the next one.
Oh no, I'm answering a question.
Okay, go ahead, because I think you laid it out pretty good.
Oh, okay. What was the last thing? It had to do with the last part of the question. Sorry, folks. It doesn't take much to do that. Men are like that,
Can people be used, like when someone becomes obsessed with someone else?
Oh, okay, yeah. And so the stages of that, when they zero in on somebody, even if they're in an infestation, is that it's obsession, subjugation, which is you become subjugated. It could be drug abuse too. It's an obsession. It goes to subjugation. And, like, let's say you go to force her to marry you, and you take her to a cabin, or you kidnap her. Subjugation. And oppression, of course, being her somewhere, it's hard to say. But it goes to oppression, it goes to possession. It's a leading step. You can become obsessed over a certain kind of food or anything. But you notice when you become obsessed over something, it's like a little bit like infatuation, that you burn out. So they don't usually use those things they know you're going to burn out on. What they do, they try to capitalize as much as possible on that one they think they can get something off you, to get you to the next stage, to subjugate yourself, to do something, which could mean that you're going to kill her boyfriend, even though she doesn't know who the heck you are.
Exactly.
They're trying to get you to that subjugation, oppression, or trying to get you to the next stage. But if you burn out, you just quit. You're just like most people are. You're a kid, you get a crush on somebody. You know what I mean? So I hope that answers that one.
The second one is, I'll let you answer it first, but I want to address it since it happened here not that long ago. And the question is that when someone, is it rare, and this is from Tony C, is it rare for a demonic infestation to attempt to physically kill someone? Demons pushed my dad off the top of the barn, and he said it was most definitely that he was pushed hard.
Is he okay? I guess.
Yes, his dad was okay. His dad held on to a nail and he didn't get pushed, but he felt the push. So he wants to know, is it rare?
It's rare for that to happen, because it's rare for them to be able to do that, to where they can inflict harm. But you remember a case? I think that's probably one you're going to bring. They might want to, but your angels will catch you. And when they happen, like, let's say we're working on a really nasty case, or we're going to have one tomorrow morning call. They know that. And they send, this is where it comes, the Scout in Rome. That's where they come and they try to intimidate you, or they try to check you out. They do that stuff. They consider all of this a war. So they send a scout. But you know what they don't do? They've been here. There's no infestation. They don't affect our finance. They don't cause hardships. We don't get sick. We probably don't get anything that's really going to affect us negatively. It's just you experience it, you run it off, and you go back to sleep. So in the reality, that the fact that they were vulnerable to that is not normal. Malachi Martin, another show about him we'll do. I'll give people details. He was supposedly pushed off a ladder by a demon, and on the way down, he tells people that he saw the effer. That's how he referred it. He had a potty mouth. The old man of 90, how old was Father Amorth? 92?
I don't know, but he was old.
He was using a walker, leaving an exorcism in the devil and Father Amorth. Going to the elevator, pushing the button, taking his hand off the walker, putting it back on, so he relied on that thing. You should be as old as a priest like that, and not like Max von whatever his name is in The Exorcism,
Yeah, I know.
and he's dead and he's got a little vomit
Max
on
von
his
Sydow,
face.
oh my God.
And so, yeah, that means that they're vulnerable spiritually for some reason, because God doesn't mean, well, it was God's will to get shoved off the roof because they're, you know, like with Emily Rose and some of these other cases, or the Ronald Doe, or the exorcism of Nicole Aubrey in the 1500s. God has his reasons for some of those things to happen. Look what they did to move us forward in the church, to have the Roman ritual crafted from the exorcism of Nicole Aubrey, or to bring the rude awakening of it through the Ronald Doe case, which eventually made a movie. I'm sure God knew that was going to happen. I didn't need to say that. It's unnecessary. The Emily Rose case brought exorcisms and the reality thereof, before it was a movie and after. And she was even told that would be that case, that it's going to save a lot of souls. And they do. So I don't know why some of these things happen. We don't know people very well in some cases. But I don't know. You got any thoughts on that?
For what?
Do you think that there's a kind of a correlation if someone gets hurt, that, you know, it's always a case where you look spiritually deeper if the person is going to need our counseling? Why did this happen? Because sometimes they just don't really...
well, you know, I'm not thinking about the counseling
usually.
part. I'm thinking about the rarity of when I got pushed here.
Interviewing, yeah.
And the question is, how rare is it? All right.
It's rare.
Is it going to happen to 95% of the people? No. It's very rare. Why does it happen to certain people and not others? Well, as far as Tony's case is that he was talking about that happened, I mean, look at the beauty that came out of it. I mean, yes, he was young when this happened, and yes, when he was older, he was in a situation where he had to literally fight for him and his family's life with this home, and he was exposed to things at a level and an age that he couldn't really understand it, but he was able to get himself out of it. Now, myself, having the experiences I had as a child, prepared me in many, many, many ways for some of the horrors that God allowed me to not only survive, but absolutely to blossom. It's kind of like, you know, I consider myself a mushroom because I'm not really a flower, but I'm kind of a little mushroom, you know, and I'm still like trying to spread my umbrella and plant my seeds. When I came here, oh gosh, 11 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that, I was painting the back room of Ken's house here, and I was shoved off of a short little ladder by something that literally, physically, I thought it was Ken for a second. I'm like, what's he grabbing me by the arm for? And I turn around and he's across the room, and I am almost twisting my ankle and falling. What was that all about?
I don't know.
Well, that was, I think, a precursor to warn us right then and there that, you know, we had to keep the house. At the time, the house was not blessed properly. He had a marriage that was not Catholic, and the house had issues before he moved into it, and I think that kind of exacerbated what had happened when he had moved in. What was it, 6 years earlier before that?
About 8.
Or 8 years. There was lots that happened, lots of angst and lots of just ugly stuff, because in infestation, kids, we're not talking about physical attacks. We're not talking about major things. We're talking about minor skirmishes. People being used against each other. People being turned against each other. We're talking about things that, we're talking about minor suggestions that create discord and chaos in a household. This was a physical attack.
Yeah,
this was a physical attack. This was not on Ken. This was on me. Why was it on me? Because I was a Catholic, I wanted a Catholic marriage, and I wanted nothing less than everything that God had promised when he told me that I could have a Catholic marriage for the rest of my life. I wanted to do what God wanted to do, not what I wanted to do, and I was beginning to finally come under his will and not mine. So that was a warning, in my opinion, Tony. That was totally a warning. Like, you need to get out and get away. Fortunately,
And
I didn't.
And guess what happened?
That was the beginning of our ministry, really.
Nothing happened to you.
No, nothing happened to me. I didn't
You
hurt
should've got
myself.
hurt. You didn't get bruised. You didn't get cut.
It's like
nothing.
I
That's what
should
I'm
have.
saying,
I should have broke my ankle. I should have, knocked my shoulder out of joint. Something should have happened. Nothing happened.
You got more sore working in the garden the other day. And now you see, like Mona Three Stooges was standing on a table in an episode, and Curly sawed it in half, and when he fell backwards on it, he actually cracked a rib. You fell like that on the stool, so you didn't even get nothing like that. And that's part of the key there too, is that when you aren't harmed, like I said, these spirits will sometimes show up, let us know they're not happy, that we're intervening for the first time, and they come and check us out or give us kind of a warning shot, and then we proceed, and that's the only time we bless the house after that. But they don't get to really get a shot off at us in a way.
And like I said, we were both single, okay? Well, you weren't single. You were in the process, and that was
not when you were here, but
exactly. And that was when we were talking about expanding your book and taking it, because I wanted to take it to all Christians. So we wanted to take the Catholic Demonologist. So this was the beginning of our budding ministry to God and the world, because I don't work for me, I work for God. Wherever he wants us to go, that's who I work for, because I can't do it by myself. And we knew that, our combined experiences, it wasn't an accident that he brought two wacko people like us together. Especially since we can't really talk to a lot of people about, we didn't, you just don't go to coffee and say, hey, by the way, how was your weekend? Oh, well, I talked to somebody that, and her boyfriend tried to stab her, and then all of a sudden was speaking in different languages, but she got over it because she called the local priest. You don't have these conversations with people. You just don't. It's very rare. So yes, Tony, to answer your questions, very rare for any sort of demonic entity to touch you or make physical contact in any way, shape, or form. If that's the case, it is beyond infestation. It is aggressive, and it is deep-seated and rooted. And Ken had to do regular cleansing and regular blessings on this house to the point where we actually saw, it was really strange because it was just, the sun was going down. And was that about a year later? We were still blessing the house, and that happened. Remember in the garden, we got the picture of that little tiny demon.
What happened to that picture?
And it's like, I never take pictures. I don't want to look at anybody's pictures. But oh my gosh, we saw something behind the bush, and I'm like, look at that. And I'm taking pictures of my flowers. You all know what a freak I am about my flowers. Look at the little flower. Look at the toad. And it's like, like, what the heck? So he's grabbing the salt, the holy water.
2.5 feet or something. And
it was bizarre.
Yeah.
So I can't
believe we got that. It's the only capture we ever got. Well, I've always said it's like all my experiences. Oh, I have the audio file of something that my dad actually got on my multi-track recorder, and I'm going to give you all a treat, except I'm on another computer right now, and I don't have that file on here, but I'll play it for another time.
Yes.
It's a soft woman's voice speaking on there. So all that time, try to get EVP recordings and everything, from the old days, because we didn't have anything with parapsychology when I was younger. So even with all the books of the saints from all the convents, and we had priests, bishops, Monsignor in our family, and all that stuff. It's they weren't boned up on spiritual warfare so much, except a few. Anyway.
No, but Tony, like we were saying, and the question was from Tony, we have to look at something like this and understand that God is calling us to a higher level of responsibility. You will not, at work, you will not get a higher workload if all you can do is sort parts and put them in a box. If you can label the boxes, sort the boxes, and organize the boxes, your boss is definitely going to give you way more responsibility. You're going to make way more money. We are awarded the level of responsibility that we can handle and that we embrace, because we could definitely say, oh, no, I'm not going to organize. I'm not going to sort. I'm not going to categorize all those boxes. I'm going to be perfectly happy putting my little widgets in my little spaces in the box. God's okay with that too. That's what you're fine doing. He will take you wherever you're at. Whenever you turn to him, rely on him. If you're happy with that, that's what you get. Yet, if you show God, you know what, I can handle this responsibility, God. I'm not going to crack. I'm not going to break. I am going to step up to the plate because I trust in you. And that's a big thing. Anytime any of this happens, we really have to lean on God and trust in him. Because this is, despite what everybody thinks about, yes, this is a fallen world. This is, not the place that everything's going to be happy. We have much to appreciate. But this is a fallen world. And Francois, it's not so much that if we're targeted, we're doing things right. It's what we look in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, that happened to me. Thank you, God, for not letting it crush me. Thank you, God, for letting me realize that you would like me to rely on you and not my own understanding. I don't need to talk to it. I don't need to give it a name. I don't need to invite it to sit down with tea and crumpets. What do we need to do? We just go, okay, stop laughing at me, Ken. Smack on.
The dog had to go out.
We have to just understand that we are rewarded in little baby steps. God obviously wanted Ken and I to do books. He wanted us. He had the vision long before we even knew each other, that this is what we were going to be doing. We were going to be, working with the bishops, blessing, taking care of things. But guess what, kids? We're not just here for just one people, one time. We're here for everybody.
And
I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. I don't care where you've been.
I'm not a psychic medium or anything, but I experienced some weird stuff just by myself without even being on cases. With other people. I had a friend in my room that witnessed the shadow pointing at me when I said, "What do you want?" It's just like, I was talking to some other people who are involved in this work, exorcists and so forth.
Yes.
Some of them experience it from a very early age. I think it's kind of like being programmed by God to be ready for this work. It's just weird. We're not priests. We're kind of in the middle. We're Franciscans. We're not deacons, but we're right knee deep in it without the burden, if you want to call it a burden, of being a priest where you're anchored to one place. So we can go all around the United States. That's the problem with being a deacon, is you have to kind of anchor yourself to a parish most of the time.
Yes, you have to.
And then you owe this huge student loan for getting a PhD type of education. But we experienced it at the School of Hard Knocks, and we were very Catholic, and had the right people to ask the questions to some degree. But it's very strange when you think about it. And I started with parapsychology. Luckily, I didn't run into reading National Enquirer, Gene Dixon, and all the stupid advice. We went to the right sources, and I didn't read some books out there, particularly that pretending to be Catholic priest or something.
I just don't want people to think if something bad happens to you, it's not so much that you're doing things right. It's that God has seen that for whatever reason, if you believe you're being targeted with any kind of these signs of infestation or whatsoever, you're called to a higher level of service and prayer. All right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're doing things right. It means that this is an attention. This is like your warning bell going off saying, okay, it's time, let's try this, let's keep you on track, and let's keep going forward. Because whereas God allows certain things, our free will, he never undermines that. He never undercuts that. All right, so we have to make sure our free will is on his face and his will. And every night before we go to bed, into your hands I commit my spirit, Lord. Into your hands, not my hands. And then ask your guardian angel. You're not going to have nightmares. You're going to wake up on time. You're going to be rested. You're not going to wake up 500 times. You're not going to wake up when the robins start singing at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because they're all ready to make nests. You're going to sleep. You're going to be okay. And that's the thing, is we can't stop praying.
If you're not physically harmed, the threat, there's a person who I'm working with right now, and then they freak out over the picture show. I said, just a picture show. A lot of people have head injuries. Some people are kind of like mystics of today. They see things, they experience these things, and I'm not one of them. And they have to learn to tune it out. I'm saying, you got to learn to do this. You never learned to do this, you're going to be driven crazy by this stuff. It's like we experience just on other levels with thoughts subliminally coming in. Normal people, for the most part. Normal, the common person. And so this person just has to learn another way. And I said, can you imagine if you heard the voices? and they were there day and night because they will actually be saying something instead of putting a picture. So I said, ignore it. It's like walking through a hallway with television screens all over the place. Got to get dog back in.
Yes, little dog hurt.
That you would see those images, but just like going to a beach, the guys or whatever, you don't want to gawk and look at everything. You got to like act nonchalant for a lot of reasons. You got to take custody of your eyes. Well, it's the same thing if they're really strong with these subliminal images in your head with temptations. As a living saint or as a sinner, it doesn't matter who. It's a little bit of self-control there. And I said, is it hurting you? Is it scratching you? Is it causing sleep paralysis? Is it sitting on your chest? And they're allowing this not to let them get sleep and everything. It almost sounds like a psychosis, which is, the same. It's the ultimate effect, is bringing them down psychologically. They don't get enough sleep. They're going to be like a zombie anyway, or a LSD trip, But that's getting to be kind of a problem in itself. They don't take the advice either, like, get some sleep. Knock yourself in the head with a mallet like they did on Three Stooges or something, and then you'll hear the cuckoo clocks or whatever. I mean, do something, because they're letting themselves become nuts, and the demon's not even there that strong if there is one there. I'm not 100% sure in some cases. And they're just getting you to, be affected. It's like, man up. Some of these people just need to get a grip.
Yes.
You're not getting hurt. You're just being, remember that one priest that said,
poked.
"This is all you got, and you're the prince of darkness." Is basically he was telling his colleague after that, and he told us on our radio show once that there's not this thing in the exorcism most of the time, and you're like, "That's all you got." That's what we got to think. Don't be so scared. Like a ghost appears at the side of your bed. We're desensitized a little bit, so forgive me for that. But you don't it's an invisible person. It's like an invisible man. Oh, no, it's invisible. Wait a minute, invisible head. It doesn't matter, right? He can't even push my glass of water over, so what am I going to suffer? And you're not getting hardships because they're not pushing the pennies out of your wallet into the sewer. I don't know. Sorry about the little rant style talk.
Yeah, it's okay. We got to get through these last few, honey, okay? We covered the ghost noises, phantom smells, dreams being diabolical, weird, crazy dreams, bad luck. We don't have bad luck. We just don't. We don't. We live a very blessed life. Even if our car's stolen, we still live a blessed life. Even if I trip and smack my forehead on the cement, I still live a blessed life.
You didn't have that.
But no, seriously, people think like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, when I am standing perfectly still and I am moving something a foot away from me and a glass falls out of a cabinet and smacks my phone at the appropriate point to shatter everything, I pull the holy water out and the exercise salt. I live a blessed life. Yeah. I don't look at luck. And a lot of people think, well, gosh, I just had a run of bad luck. I lost at the casino. I lost as that. And that's okay. If people see that that's what their life is, I have bad luck, I have good luck, who am I to tell them they don't? I can only tell them that I trust in God and I trust in Christ, and that luck is not something that is, they're not going to have luck when they leave this earth.
Yeah.
Luck is a temporary construct.
That's a common mainstream word,
yes.
And it's only that only happens when they're actually able to connect with your life. Other than that, it's all a show. It's all vision. It's all just a put on. If they can't connect, in other words, if they try to knock that thing over, it'll cause damage. Using something that seems more natural or whatever, discreetly. Yeah, that's the thing. But people consider, hey, you have a lot of bad luck lately, a series of unfortunate events, then that might be something to put on the checklist. And the car keys, money, these are things when they're manipulating objects and items around the house. Luckily, the money thing doesn't happen very often. One time it was noted there was a comic book ad back when I was younger in the 60s and 70s, and the guy was named Gavin Frost, and guess where he was at? Selling witchcraft in the back of comic books like Archie and all this other stuff. In an ad, a little picture ad, sometimes a small one, sometimes a full page one. Witchcraft looks like like melted candles. You remember that one? His name was Gavin Frost, and I think his wife was named Yvonne, not to give them any homage or anything like that. They lived in, of all places, where? Where do you think they lived in Missouri? What was the name of the town?
Oh, gosh, St. Louis?
Salem. That's right.
Oh,
No, I'm just
Salem.
How cliche, right?
I know.
But they had something in there about a money jar. It's like, you can have money magically appear in there. Well, there's actually supposed to be some truth in that. That you wonder where your money goes is what one person said, that if your money disappears in your house, it's going to end up in some wizard's pocket somewhere or something like that. Well, we don't get into it that far in understanding this thing. We just recognize evil, we rebuke it. We look for to expel evil, not to read about it and become obsessed with it.
True.
But, you might expect that. Car keys, what's it going to do? End up in their laps? They can steal your car?
I know, isn't that crazy? I have a question. I need to get in right away.
Okay.
So we can get through this.
Yeah,
Henry has a question. Welcome, Henry. Welcome, Sean. Thank you so much for joining us. The question is I have a question. 2013, a demonic voice in my mind talked to me and asked me questions. Why do people die in car accidents? And then he lost a friend in a car accident. He was kind of weirded out by it. He got bewildered. He got a DWI. His wife got an order. I'm not sure what the order was. He became homeless. He lost everything. His wife filed for divorce, manipulated the courts, and
welcome to the real world in that one. That's going
and
on
my son at the time, I haven't been able to make contact with him because of a bogus order. Oh, mercy. Henry, I'm going to add you to prayers because that is the worst thing when you do not have contact with a child. Henry, I'm going to tell you right now before we answer this question, you need to go to swordsofstmichael.com and you need to go under there for haunting help, and you need to start doing the breaking curses prayers, and do not stop them until you get your son back. It may take time.
Does sound like a series of unfortunate events.
It sounds like you were cursed either by your wife, by your spell, something, because bam, 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 you're hearing a voice, your friend dies, and your marriage falls apart. That's not luck. That is definitely a series of really horrific events. And I'm so sorry you don't have any contact with your son. I will pray for you. But I really would like you to go and do breaking curses for me for 9 days, and contact Ken and I on our Facebook page, and we'll see if there's anything else we can help you with. Okay, Henry? So, Ken, you want to answer that question? What do you think about that kind of demonic voice? What is that kind of telling us? Thank you, Carolyn. Henry needs our prayers. We don't know. His little boy's got to be so lost without his daddy. I'm sorry, Ken. I can't miss saying
another kind of supernatural thing right here.
Very
I had a
supernatural.
dream before I was going to get engaged to this gal. And the environment was, I was just in this room, and there was a conch shell in there. I picked it up being goofy, like I was pretending there was music coming through there. And I heard a deep voice in it tell me 3 things about the girl I was going to get engaged to. And they all came true. 3 things. I had something with 3 things at another time in life, but I wondered why this was necessary for them to tell you that. You couldn't do anything about it. Like, hey, don't take the car, you'll kill yourself, it was almost like it's demonstrating that, hey, I'm psychic, that you're psychic, I mean, or why did it communicate this to you? It sounds to me like there was some sort of demonic attachment that was with you, and it was like showing off, and it might have got this information basically because it knows the circumstances. The guy was going to go to a place and he was celebrating, he's going to get drunk. All he's got to do is just run one of his dark figures across the road, and he drives out the road, wrecks, that kind of stuff. You did get a DWI or whatever. It's easy for demons to predict some things. In other words, because they know causality and
they watch. Demons are not prophets, and don't for 1 minute think that they are.
Chaos theory.
Don't for 1 minute.
They make it happen.
And they guess, and a lot of times, just like Edgar Cayce, occasionally they get it right. Not always.
And they make it happen. That's like, all these David Copperfield things, and they're faking it with the audience. So they're making it happen somehow or another. But why did it tell you? That's what you got to ask. And the fact that you might have a curse on you.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
If this is not a good spirit that told you that he's going to die, it's trying to show off and trying to manipulate you by saying that. For one reason or another, it may not have been a prediction like Farah said. But that's a good. We always start in those cases with the breaking curses prayers.
Always,
Get it at the ground.
especially because there's a child involved. And this
Yeah,
is
what a
the number
shame.
one thing that the devil does. This is how you know it's demonic. Why was your family attacked? Why was your family attacked? Your family was busted up. You became homeless. From sadness, depression, losing everything. I mean, the worst case scenario. So what does that do to your budding child who wants to do a family and children? It destroys his sense of trust, and his whole psyche has just been manipulated. How? By demons. And you as the father have the most power through God, through Christ Jesus. You have the most power to bring about a healing for your son. That's why I'm asking you to please do those breaking curses prayers for you and for your child, because you have the power to reunite, even if you don't get back together with his mother, to heal those wounds, so that your son does not have to go through the same thing, if not worse,
only
than
till
you
he's
went
18.
through.
They can't keep you away from him forever, and you can always take him back to court when new evidence comes up. You might get a pro bono case if you're really low on money. We have a place in town, and it's called Southern. What's the name of that one? But anyway, that wouldn't apply to you anyway. You don't live in Missouri, so yeah. We unfortunately, in cases of marriages break up or they're about to break up, so we deal with couples and all that stuff on a lot of levels that we said before. Anything else from the chat room? We didn't get much chance to put the chat room up.
No, I know. Okay, so let's get on with our. Okay, we've got cold spots, foul smells. Let's see, bad luck, car keys and money things getting moved. Oh my gosh, that's so common. That's definitely the beginning of infestation. If you're losing things, especially if you're not old like us kids, okay? If you guys are like, 15, 20, 30, even in your 40s, you're not that addled brain yet. I mean, but, if you're in your 50s, that's okay too. But let's just say, that you have a spot that you always put something in, and it's gone. And then all of a sudden it turns up where it couldn't be. And nobody in their right mind would have any place, any reason, ever touch it.
That's
pull
really
out the holy
noticeable.
water, pull out the salt. It's time to bless the place, kick it out.
There's
Whatever
another
got in there.
scenario I talked about the other day that you're looking around for your car keys and you don't see them and they're right in front of you, and someone else actually points them out there after. You say, "There's my car keys. They weren't there a minute ago." "Oh yeah, they were, Dad. I didn't know you were looking for that. I thought you were looking for your wallet." And something like that. That didn't happen to me, but that's actually something we heard. But that's because you might be oppressed, and that's going to be more strong when you're going through a freak out moment. Emotions, demons will capitalize on oppression and possession. Possessions will kick in the step-in mode when they get possessed for a temporary time because of emotions, negative emotions, not good ones like "I love you, I am now a possessed person." It doesn't work that way. Now, when obsessive, narcissistic love or something like that, which isn't love at all, not always negative emotions. We get worked up, we're going to be blinded. We might be careless. We might lose our money. We might reach in our pocket.
It happens. It happens. But that's a good one. Okay, the next one, light bulbs going on.
Yeah, you heard that one happen a lot.
Is
I've had that one happen only once.
I mean, Ken and I, is so funny because I don't know if anybody remembers tape recorders. Okay, I was once a singer a long time ago, and I studied under a beautiful woman named Charlotte Moore-Viculin, who worked with, I don't know if anybody remembers, but the Supremes. So she was my voice coach. Yeah, and I had a tape of my vocal exercises because my range was 3.5 octaves, and I like to practice. And so we were comparing. Oh, I've got this tape recorder. I've got this tape recorder. So we left the tape recorders out, and we're in the other room, and we're talking about doing something. And all of a sudden, the tape recorder's coming on, and there's no batteries, and it's not plugged in. What's that telling us? That was just so bizarre because, for electronics to turn themselves on when they shouldn't be able to, in old houses, people, lights flicker on and off all the time, all right? All the time. You'll see lights go in and out, but for them to flicker and stop and then flicker again for no reason on a regular basis, more than a few times in a couple days, definitely bless the house. Don't take a chance, kids. Bless the house.
One of the ideas about that they don't like lights, and I'm talking particularly lights. And I'm not talking about when you make them flicker. That could be a show off, or it could be something like a demonstration of their power or whatever. But they don't like lights. I heard one old parapsychologist say that they thought that the demon was drawing power from the electrical, because you can almost see an arc going from where the spirit was from the light bulb socket. And when it did that, the light bulb got weaker. I said, no, they hate the light. They don't like incandescent lights. That's why some children had experiences where they turned the light on in the room and they actually saw something fleeing in the closet. And they tell them, oh, I saw it, and I went under the bed. Oh, no, that couldn't have been, because that's not the way things work in life, although we're not talking about it of this world. But that experience is, I think, a lot more to do with the bulbs that are going out, because they actually can be at a higher level manifestation. Yes. They can blow out the bulbs, not make it crack open like in TV movies and stuff like that, but actually burn out unusually quick for a bulb's lifespan, and take it out, make it dimmer in the room. They don't like any form of light. They're the princes of darkness. Lights flicker. That one happened to us many times.
I'm sorry, Tony wants to know, does it mean that we're supercharged if we're flickering lights?
Flickering lights? No. A person? No, like I said, it's a spirit again.
Yes, I
know.
He was being silly. It's okay.
Yeah. It's not coming from a person on that stuff, by the way.
Exactly.
I got some crazy stories about that.
But okay, so we can get onto the list. That's the light bulbs going out, flickering, da-da-da. Electronics, we talk about electronics, TV, radio going off. And you guys have heard us tell the story. The weirdest thing, okay, now, beyond phones calling themselves, because you guys have heard that story, right, when our phones were probably 15 feet away from each other, and they're calling each other, and neither one of us are touching our phones. And I pick up my phone, look at him like, Ken, why are you calling me? And he's like, I'm not, I'm in the other room. And he comes in and looks at his phone, and he says, you're calling me, I'm going to answer. He says, don't you dare. I'm like grabbing the holy water. I'm like, don't answer it. Okay, hello, Demonology 101, do not acknowledge. You don't play with them. You
don't
go,
open a door after 3 knocks.
Ignore them. So, okay, that was the phones, all right? That's what was, okay, now, you lost my train of thought now. We were talking, go ahead.
Oh, but that's okay, you were talking about electronics affected.
Yes, I was talking about the phones. Okay, that was bad enough. But, have you ever gotten messages, and I mean really weird automated messages on your phone that should not be there, that nobody should have your phone number, and you're like, what? Why is this message on my phone, and you can't figure out, and you go to call the number and it doesn't go to anything? You get disconnected. Electronics,
nothing surprises me.
No, exactly. Nothing surprises us anymore. So all kinds of stuff can happen with electronics, and that can be the beginning of infestation too. Or it can be, if you
it's really easy to manipulate it.
If you work in evangelization, like Ken and I do, in deliverance and exorcism, it can be a warning. Something's coming down the pipe, and like we said, demons are not prophets here. But if they follow a logical sequence, and if they see our name, like if somebody's searching on the internet and they see somebody pull up our name either on a paranormal, or they see our name on, they're on the Diocese of Springfield, Cape Girardeau, and they see our name associated with the office, guess who might be paying us a visit just because they think they can? And this will not be one of the lower ones, because the lower ones, they can't get near us. We've got mosquito spray on, and we annoy them. These are the nasty ones that are just like, it's like somebody poking you on the subway and going, just poke, just to see if we'll jump. We don't play like that, folks. We get the holy water out, we wash it out right away. Oh my gosh. Yes, light bulbs are very expensive, Athena. That's so true.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, Sean, you have an excellent point. And in our prayers, those electric demons are demons of the air, and they can be prayed away. And Christ told us to pray them away. So that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? Anything else to add about those little pokes that we get, Ken, from the phone and stuff like that? Really
Well,
weird
there's one
electronic
time
stuff.
we were, I'm not going to say arguing. Started something to do with money or taxes, I think it was, and we got interrupted by a, and then we're like stopped, and it's like, what the heck is that? We looked on the floor, and right in the middle of the floor is a micro cassette recorder with the play and the fast forward button pushed, and it was standing upright as though we set it on the floor to listen to it, and it was going because the two buttons were simultaneously pushed. We weren't near it. We didn't like go over there and walk. How could you walk on one that's sitting up on a vertical level?
You can't.
You would step on it and go, whoa, and you would trip over it. So that was a weird manifestation. But like I said, they don't like, oh, it didn't break. Oh, it didn't crack it. They don't break our rosaries and stuff like that. It's just become more of the norm. It's a very peaceful house. You have to pay attention to the atmosphere of the house. You say the rosary every day, you still get it. But this is way, it may be like what people say, like, oh, you're getting that kind of thing. That means you're doing something right. Well, that does, but not when you're actually getting hurt and affected financially. You're not Padre Pio, who has a cell and monks to take care of you, where you can get sick, beat up by demons like Gemma, St. Gemma as a nun, or anything like that, where you can offer that up. We're not martyrs. We're in the vocation of, the marriage. We're in, we're not the same. It's not the same scenario. So no one compare themselves to Padre Pio out there and justify why you're getting constantly harassed in another way, and where it's affecting you in this physical life, where you're going to have to take out a loan because they're messing your whole life up. No, that's not the same thing. And God knows that we're accustomed to this stuff, and they know we are, and they don't hide as much when they know you're totally aware that they're here, and they're around. You just experience more of it to some degree. It's good in a certain way because you know where they're lurking a lot more, and you can do something about it. So God allows that. You can get them out right away, and it never goes anywhere from there. So that's a great thing. But that's a very sketchy thing. It's like one of those questions that come up when people are wanting to do what we do, which is a long process in itself besides the learning to figure out. It's like, hey, how far do we go? What are our parameters?
Yeah, you have to be dragged behind a chariot with 16 horses and, being thrown feathers and bonbons and stones while you flail about madly asking somebody to catch you and stop the chariot, please. Your blood blinding you, and then, of course, you're all swaddled up, and you've got a long recovery period, and they drag you again.
That happened to you too?
Oh my gosh. I can laugh now. Okay, so Suzanne Perry says, I am very curious about that, Ken. Can a demon hurt me physically?
It depends on the person and God's will and permissible
God's
will.
God's permissible will.
It shouldn't be able to
has
help you if you.
But yes, it can hurt you. Don't kid yourself.
What is it called? A norum? What is it called?
Auxilium Christianorum.
Christianorum. It's that I know. Father, God bless him.
Yes.
He says that the fact that you're saying the prayers and you're getting hit, it's working. No, it's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be, hit financially and that sort of stuff. It means there's something wrong. I don't think he meant that
you were getting hit badly, that you were having minor skirmishes, sweetie. I think that's what Father meant.
Minor, like losing thing here and there, and it's definitely hardships and misfortunes.
Exactly, not major
hardships. Most people aren't meant to even pray the prayers, as we said in that one video, because you're entering the battle one way or another, even if it's in your prayers praying for exorcists and or their victims. That's another thing in itself. You really got to pray long and hard. We were dragged in there. I got away from it and then I get calls. And then I feel this peace when I'm on the phone talking to someone that got a shadow person in their house. As they call, we know evil spirits.
Precisely.
But that's a weird thing. And I didn't realize that until, I don't know, whatever it was, 2010. That I had this great peace over me. Why would I have peace over talking to someone about a demonic encounter? It's because I found when you find your niche in the spiritual side of things, you can get a great job and stuff like that.
And that brings us into our next point, sweetie. Because we have to get through it. It's already 9:39. We've gone over enough and we've kept these people long enough. So we've got to polish it up, kids. So this next one we've got to go over is the physical activities such as things being thrown and sleep paralysis. That is the final... when we talk about infestation, things that have gotten and people let them get this bad, This is when you know you are completely infested. If things are being, if there are physical, actual things being thrown in your home, if you are being choked and suffocated, that alone should not be happening, period.
Yeah, that
Period,
physical
period,
attack,
period.
that means you're vulnerable, and we find they're usually
You're
not
very
even
vulnerable.
baptized, we find, in those common cases. They're not common, but it's common for them not to be baptized.
Yeah, and Tony Cobianco disagreed with me. He says Father Ripperger was not talking about major retaliation. He was talking about minor.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think you should get any, and I'm going by experience from when I know what people,
I am
mentors.
too, but I'm saying it's not major retaliation. They should not be having.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Tony
Yeah.
says everybody's enjoying it. Thanks, Tony. Okay, and so the last two on the list, Kenny, I can't see the list. Pull
Oh,
it up
I'm
again.
sorry, Vera. I guess I might have
You changed my list, that bad
And
boy.
the sleep paralysis, yes, we've talked about
Yes,
that.
we talked about the sleep paralysis.
Grab by ankles, hair touch. That means, you notice how it's actually gone to where it's actually grabbing you and it's closing its fist on you. It's pulling your hair. It's touching
And
it.
if something touches my hair, I'm going to be swinging. I don't care where you're coming
That's where
from.
it's gone.
I
It goes
got
to
arms
physical
and legs.
manifestations after it's gone to psychological warfare through all the senses. Now it's actually physically manipulating objects and manifesting in that way. That's what you're seeing in these later stages.
Yes.
Grab
very
by the
much
ankles. Stephen King made a kind of a funny thing. He said something about one time that, how can my daughter sleep with a nightlight in her room and then
Yes.
tell me to close the door and she goes to sleep? He says, I can't sleep with my foot hanging over the edge of the bed, but it's comfortable because I'm afraid I'm going to wake up with a cold, clammy hand grabbing onto it. It's like, oh, God, gotta love him. But,
So true.
yeah, and the hair touched. I woke up one time years ago before, 2010, and I woke up and like my hair was being stroked, and it was obviously not someone in the bed. So little things like that you still are explaining. It's like, did I have a relative like my mom come and visit? My mom was living then, so my grandmother, she never stroked my hair that I remember or anything like that. But sometimes it's that, and sometimes you're being groomed by an incubus spirit or succubus if you're a man like I am. And it could be any kind of hair touch. Doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive like it's being pulled. Shadow or visit, being bedside. This is what I told you. And all these stages right here, you might get that. And well, no one, you can tell people when they're full of it. I never get used to the idea of waking up and having something stand at the side of my bed for whatever reason. Because you get caught off guard, even if it's my kid. Like, oh, stop doing that. Can I have a Kleenex? Go in and get them. That's what used to happen when I was younger. But I was already, grew up with that stuff since I was like 7 or whatever age I was earlier. You wake up and there's all sorts of things I've seen when I do that. And I sat up in bed and watched these things occur. And I don't get desensitized from the idea of being jump scared. So anyway,
and that's something we need to tell people. Ghosts, don't put a hand on your hair. Ghosts, do not brush your hair out of your face. Ghosts don't do that. Okay, they don't do that at all. So that's not a ghost. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And the last one, number 22, we're finally here. The shadow or visible being in your home, on your bedside. Like, let's say you're laying on the couch, okay, and you fell asleep watching TV, and then all of a sudden you start to wake up and you see something standing over you that basically looks like something out of Frighteners. That's not good. That's beyond infestation. That's not the beginning of infestation. That means you, like, for whatever reason, you've already invited something in. You've invited by your behavior, by something you've done. That's bad. You see a shadow or you see a figure, and it won't just be at night either. You'll see it out of the corner of your eye in the day.
Yeah, that's if you want to add to the list. Yeah, if you see it during the day, that means it's advanced. If you don't see it at the corner of your eye anymore and you're seeing it full peripheral vision, that means it's advanced, and it'll be in later stages that you're looking at right there. All righty, so I suppose.
So you see that we are summing it up and telling you that, this kind of stuff When you look at more than a couple of them, yes, this crosses into oppressive vexation, which is really, really dangerous. Thank you so much for liking it. I got 23 out of 34 of you liking it. Thank you so much. As we leave, if you could like it some more, we'd love you. And subscribe, little bell. Never forget, as I always say at the end of the show, guess what? The battle's already been won. You don't have to worry about oppression or demons or anything like that, kids. The battle's been won, all right? We're just here to help you win the fight and do it right. You can support us if you like our ministry, what we do, at PayPal or Patreon. We're trying to set up some levels so we can give you guys some cool swag, but we haven't really figured that out yet, so follow us. And thank you all for joining us. God bless you all, and take care, and happy Lent. And never forget, a confession, a good confession, is as good as a good exorcism.
Actually, that's another topic for another
That's
show.
a total other topic.
Yeah, that can be misleading, like there's no salvation outside the church, or
exactly.
one of those other kind of statements. Hey, folks, don't forget when you watch these shows and we say something, don't take it out of context and run with it, such as those other statements we just talked about can be done. You got to ask us some questions for more information. We speed by these experiences that took longer than we tell them. And don't, because you haven't understand or experienced it, don't say that, hey, that's not Catholic, or or don't do that stuff to us, all right? Give us the benefit of the doubt. We've experienced it, we've researched it, we talked to experts, we talked to exorcists, we know what we're doing. We're 57, we're old farts now. And we've been around for a long time. We're pledging, to continue to do the fight and help you do it right, so to speak. Especially on the self-help, which is a great front.
And I meant it to Henry. Henry, if you need help, I'm praying for your son. I know what it's like to be deprived of a child you love, more than one.
Yeah.
So please know we're praying for you, and contact us if we can get you any medals or anything.
SwordSaintMichael.org.
Yes, SwordSaintMichael.org. And anybody else, hey, you know where we're at. Next Sunday, come on back to our Sunday kickback. If you're not kicking it back, you're walking with it. So hang with us. We'll help you out.
Very interesting.
God bless and good night.
God bless
See you
everybody.
next Sunday.
See you next
from
Sunday.
The Real Deals.
The Real Deals TV show, copyright 2018, a Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Kenneth and Farah Deel is strictly prohibited.